Hey YouTube, this is The Art of Prepping. Let's just talk about tree roots. So not all tree roots are like this, but this is just for the average tree. The diameter of the root system is going to be about the same width as the widest portion of the canopy of the tree. So if it comes out to about 8 to 10 feet on one side, that means probably the root system comes out 8 to 10 feet in the ground. There are some trees that have shallow root systems, and there, of course, are exceptions that some of the root systems of the trees are even larger than the canopy, the width or the girth of it. But in general, though, it's kind of interesting to note that certain trees, though, have that capability of actually kind of almost mimicking itself from the upper regions of its structure down underground, and there's almost like the underground is kind of like another version of the upper canopy. And so this is just something to be mindful of if you're planting trees near your house, because the root systems can disturb your foundation of your home, depending on what kind of home you have. And it's also good to note, though, that if it's close to a driveway, especially if it's paved with asphalt or concrete, it could crack that over time when the tree gets even bigger. So a rule of thumb, though, is to keep a good distance, potentially about 25 to 30 feet minimum from any kind of major structure, so it won't compromise it in the future in terms of the structural integrity. Now, there's a lot of trees, though, that, during storms and stuff may fall over, especially where I live or in the woods. Sometimes we get some pretty violent storms. Here's a tree right here. And you can see that it many years ago it fell over. I don't even remember how many years it's been, and you can see the roots have kind of broken off a bit. But it doesn't look like maybe this is much more than maybe at 1.6 to 7 feet at most. The root system here, before the tips broke off and stuff of the roots, and so this is just an example, though, of this is a little bit more of a shallow root system, in my opinion, even though this tree wasn't very big, of course, but I'd say that it was probably like a 35 to 40 feet, at one point. And so it just depends on, a 3.5 or so, the radius of this is around 3.5 feet. It's a pretty shallow tree, but once again, there's different trees that have different type of root systems. And this is also really good to know, especially if you're digging, and trying to hide a cache. Maybe it's a burial vault or whatever, that you may want to be mindful of the root systems. If you try to bury things when you're prepping, or if you're into survival, close to a root system, because those root systems could become a lot larger in diameter and make it a lot harder to access your cache. So a rule of thumb is to maybe avoid things, or at least spots really close up to a tree for that reason. So a better way to do it is to pick maybe 3 trees and maybe have that notated in some kind of encrypted way, and maybe your safe or some personal effects that only your family can get access to. And maybe you would have that triangulation, so maybe between this tree here, that tree in there, and here, maybe in the middle you have your cache, so or wherever is buried. Now, in terms of that, though, you might want to also do different ways to disguise what's there. So if it is a metal box or something that a metal detector can't just find it right away, of course, there's different ways to counter that. You could take some nails and plug them throughout this area, so it's this whole area will be full of a false positive. In terms of that. So that could be a way to camouflage it, but a lot of people don't like putting nails in their ground or their yard. So there's other ways to counter that. I'll leave it up to you if you want to check those things out. But just be mindful of the roots of the trees, because they can be an issue. But we all love our trees, and just wanted to bring that up. So you guys take care and enjoy the woods.